The station floated in the darkness like a forgotten toy. Harmony's Edge was old, built when the Galactic Coalition still cared about the Outer Rim. Now it just hung there in space, orbiting a dying star that barely gave off any light. Most days nothing happened. Commander Jiho liked it that way. Jiho was a Velnar, which meant he looked a bit like a tall, thin deer that walked on two legs. His people were peaceful. They solved problems with words, not weapons. That was why the Coalition put him in charge of this place. Nothing ever went wrong out here until today. The alarm screamed through the station. Jiho jumped from his chair in the command center. His four-fingered hands flew across the control panel. The screen showed something that made his blood run cold. Ships, dozens of them. Big ones. "Sir, we have incoming vessels," said Tillix, his second officer. Tillix was an insectoid, all clicking mandibles and too many eyes. Right now those eyes were wide with fear. "They're not responding to our hails." Jiho knew what they were before the computer identified them. Crithian warships. Everyone in the galaxy feared the Crithians. They were big, mean, and they took what they wanted. Whole planets had vanished into their empire, their people turned into slaves. How many? Jiho asked, though he already knew the answer would be bad. 43 ships, Commander. 3 dreadnoughts, 15 cruisers, and 25 smaller vessels. Tillix's voice shook. "We have 6 defense platforms and shields that haven't been upgraded in 10 years. The communication screen crackled to life. A Crithian face filled it. They looked like someone had mixed a lizard with a nightmare. Scales, too many teeth, eyes that saw other beings as things to use. "Station, you will surrender immediately," the Crithian said. His name appeared on the screen, Warlord Zekrin. "This system now belongs to the Crithian Empire. Resistance will result in your destruction." Jiho's hands trembled, but he kept his voice steady. "This is a Coalition station. You are in violation of—" "The Coalition is weak," Zekrin interrupted. "They talk and talk while we act." "You have one of your human hours to evacuate. After that, we take the station with or without you inside it." The screen went dark. Tillix turned to Jiho. "We need to evacuate. Now. Get everyone to the escape pods." "And go where?" Jiho asked. "The nearest Coalition world is 3 days away. Those ships will hunt down our pods in minutes. Besides, there are colonies in this system. Mining outposts. Families. If the Crithians take this station, those people are next." "Then what do we do?" Tillix clicked his mandibles together, a nervous habit. "We can't fight them." Jiho stared at the fleet on his screen. 43 warships against one old station. It wasn't even a fight. It was an execution. But he couldn't just run. He wouldn't. "Send a distress signal," Jiho said. "All Coalition frequencies. Emergency priority. Sir, the nearest Coalition fleet is weeks away. Even if they come, send it anyway." Tillix nodded and moved to the communications station. His many fingers danced across the controls. "Signal broadcasting on all Allied channels. Sending our coordinates, enemy strength, and requesting immediate assistance." The station shook. One of the Crithian ships had fired a warning shot. The shields held, but barely. Jiho watched the power levels drop. Another hit like that and they'd start losing hull integrity. "They're not waiting an hour," Jiho said quietly. "Broadcast on every frequency we have, everything. Old channels, new channels, even the ones marked as restricted." "Sir, some of those frequencies are quarantined. There are worlds we're not supposed to contact." "I don't care." Jiho's voice cracked. "Broadcast on everything. Anyone needs to hear us." Tillix hesitated for just a moment, then opened every communication channel the station had. Ancient frequencies from before the Coalition even existed. Restricted channels marked with warnings. Emergency bands that hadn't been used in centuries. The distress call went out like a scream into the void. It carried Jiho's voice, shaking but clear. "This is Harmony's Edge station to any vessels in range. We are under attack by Crithian forces. 43 warships. We have civilians in this system. We need immediate assistance. Please, if anyone can hear this, we need help." The message repeated, bouncing through relays, spreading across the darkness of space. Most of it went to empty systems or stations too far away to help. But one frequency, one old restricted channel marked "Quarantine World Sol 3 Do Not Contact," carried the message somewhere unexpected. Another explosion rocked the station. The lights flickered. Jiho's screen showed hull breaches on 3 levels. The Crithian fleet was getting closer, surrounding them like predators circling wounded prey. "Shields at 30%, reported one of the crew members. a young Velnar named Suri. She looked terrified. This was probably her first real emergency. Evacuate non-essential personnel, Jiho ordered. Get them to the core sections. Seal the outer rings. Commander, we're receiving a response. Tillix's voice rose with hope. Jiho spun around. From who? The Coalition? I don't know. The signal is coming from that restricted frequency. The one marked Sol 3. Tillix's mandibles clicked rapidly. The translation matrix is having trouble. It's a language not in our database. Put it through anyway. Static filled the command center. Then a voice, strange and alien, speaking in sharp, quick sounds. The computer struggled to translate, words appearing on the screen in fragments. Received, coordinates, hold position, arriving. What is Sol 3? Suri asked. Tillix brought up the file. His eyes went wide as he read. It's listed as a quarantine world. High gravity, extreme weather. The species there are classified as...
Oh no, what?
Jiho demanded. Deathworlders, sir. The inhabitants are considered too dangerous for Coalition contact. Their planet tried to kill them for millions of years, so they evolved to be. Tillix trailed off, reading more. The report says they're aggressive, violent, and have something called nuclear weapons that they actually used on each other. Jiho felt his heart sink. They'd called for help and gotten the attention of a world full of monsters. But another explosion reminded him that the monsters were already here, and they were Crithian. At least someone answered, Jiho said quietly. The Crithian ships moved closer. Warlord Zekran's face appeared on the screen again. Your time is up, Station. Surrender or die. Jiho looked at his crew. Young Suri, who had just started her assignment. Tillix, who had served with him for 5 years. 30 other crew members, all looking at him for answers he didn't have. We do not surrender, Jiho said, surprised by the strength in his own voice. This station stands for the Coalition and everything it represents. If you want it, you'll have to take it. Zekran laughed, a horrible sound like rocks grinding together. So be it. Your bravery will be remembered for the few minutes you have left alive. The screen went dark again. The Crithian fleet opened fire for real this time. The station's shields collapsed under the barrage. Hull breaches spread like wounds. Alarms screamed. People ran through corridors trying to reach safety that didn't exist. Jiho held onto his console as the station shook apart around him. Through the viewport, he could see the Crithian ships, their weapons glowing with power. This was the end. Then space twisted. It was like reality itself tore open. Jiho had seen dark space jumps before, but never like this. Never so close. Never so many at once. 12 massive shapes emerged from the impossible fold in space, appearing between Harmony's Edge and the Crithian fleet. They were ships, but not like any Jiho had ever seen. They were built like fortresses covered in armor, bristling with weapons. They looked like they were designed for war and nothing else. A new voice came through the communication system. Female. Calm. Speaking in that same strange language that now translated clearly. Unknown station, this is Admiral Bora of the Terran Defense Fleet. We received your distress call. Hold position. We'll handle this. Jiho stared at the 12 ships facing down the Crithian fleet. The Deathworlders had arrived. He didn't know if he should feel relieved or terrified, maybe both. Captain Hyon was drinking coffee when the distress signal arrived. It was synthetic coffee, grown in the hydroponics bay, but it tasted close enough to the real thing. He was reviewing supply reports when his communication officer spoke up. Sir, we're receiving a distress call. It's on one of the old restricted frequencies. Hyon set down his cup. Restricted? Which one? The quarantine band, sir. The one the Coalition set up to keep people from contacting us. The officer, a young man named Dae-hyun, looked confused. Someone's broadcasting an emergency signal. They sound desperate. Put it through. The message played. A shaking voice speaking in a language that Earth's computers had learned from watching Coalition broadcasts. The translation was good. Very good. The message was clear. Station under attack. 43 enemy ships, civilians in danger, requesting help. Hyun stood up. Get me Admiral Bora. Now. The Indomitable was one of 12 ships in the Third Fleet. They'd been on patrol near the edge of Coalition space for 3 weeks. Earth had made first contact with the Galactic Coalition 3 years ago. It hadn't gone well. The Coalition had been excited at first. A new species. New friends. Then they looked at Earth's data. Gravity twice what most species considered normal. Weather that could kill in minutes. Oceans full of predators. Land covered in more predators. And humans who had spent their entire history fighting each other and everything else their planet threw at them. The Coalition decided humans were too dangerous. They'd used the word Deathworlders like it was a disease. Earth got restricted status. No membership, no trade. Just stay on your side of space and don't bother the civilized species. It had hurt. Humanity finally found other intelligent life, only to be told they weren't welcome. But Earth's government had decided to accept it mostly. They'd explore their own region of space. Build their own ships. Maybe in a few hundred years the Coalition would change their mind. In the meantime, they'd watch and learn. That was why the Third Fleet was out here. Watching. Learning. Definitely. Not hoping for a chance to prove Earth wasn't what the Coalition thought. Admiral Bora arrived on the bridge within 2 minutes. She was tall, with short dark hair going gray at the temples. She'd been a general during the Unification Wars before Earth achieved world government. She'd seen more combat than most people could imagine. "Play the message," she said. He undid. Bora listened with no expression on her face. When it finished, she was quiet for a moment. "How far?" she asked. 4 hours at maximum dark space speed, said the navigator, an older woman named Nari. She was the chief engineer but pulled navigation duty during her shifts. "The station is in the outer rim near that dying star system." 4 hours. Bora nodded slowly. They might not have 4 minutes. "Tactical, what do we know about Crithians?" Dalian, the tactical officer, brought up files on the main screen. "Hostile Empire. They expand by conquering fringe worlds. The Coalition officially disapproves but doesn't do anything about it. Crithian ships use plasma weapons and energy shields. Their tactics are straightforward, overwhelm with numbers. And their ground forces? Large, strong, natural armor. They're bigger than humans by about 1 meter on average. They use conquered species as slave soldiers." Bora's expression didn't change, but something cold entered her eyes. "Get me the fleet. All ships." Within a minute, 11 other captains appeared on split screens around the bridge. Bora didn't waste time. "We've received a distress call. A Coalition station under attack by Crithian forces. 43 ships. They're asking for help?" One of the captains, a man named Wu Jin, frowned. "The Coalition? The ones who quarantined us?" "Yes, and we're going to help them." "Someone called for help," Bora said simply. "Are you suggesting we ignore that?" Wu Jin shook his head. "No, Admiral. Just confirming. Good, we jump in 4 hours. Doyen will send tactical data. Expect heavy resistance. Load kinetic rounds and prepare boarding teams. We go in hard and we go in fast. Questions?" Another captain spoke up. "Admiral, we have no authorization from Earth Command for this. We're not even supposed to be in Coalition space." "I'll deal with Earth Command later," Bora said. "Right now, someone needs help, and we're the only ones close enough to give it. Anyone who has a problem with that can stay behind." Nobody said anything. "Good. Prepare your ships. We jump in 3 hours and 50 minutes. Bora out." The screens went dark. Hyun looked at his admiral. "You know Earth Command is going to have questions. Let them ask." Bora turned to stare at the viewport. "We spend so much time trying to convince the galaxy we're not monsters. Maybe it's time we show them what monsters actually are." The next 3 hours moved quickly. The Indomitable and her sister ships prepared for combat. Human warships were different from Coalition vessels. They were built heavy with thick armor and redundant systems. They carried weapons that the Coalition considered excessive, railguns that could punch through meters of metal, missiles with warheads that could crack a small moon, and point defense systems that could track and destroy incoming fire with frightening accuracy. Every human ship was designed on the assumption that it would take damage, that systems would fail, that crew members would get hurt, so they built ships that could keep fighting even when they were falling apart. Minho, the intelligence specialist, briefed the crew. He was young but sharp, with a talent for finding patterns in data. "The Crithians have 43 ships, but most are older models. Their dreadnoughts are the real threat. They have heavy armor and can take a lot of punishment." "Can our railguns penetrate?" Hyun asked. "Yes, sir. Crithian shields are designed for energy weapons. They won't stop kinetic rounds effectively. We'll punch right through." Suna, the Marine lieutenant in charge of boarding teams, raised her hand. "What about their ground forces?" "Big and tough," Minho said. "But their combat doctrine is about intimidation and overwhelming force. They've never fought anyone who fights back as hard as humans do." Suna smiled. It wasn't a nice smile. Good. Admiral Bora addressed the entire fleet before they jumped. Her face appeared on every screen, on every ship. 3 years ago, the Galactic Coalition looked at us and decided we were too dangerous to join their peaceful alliance. They saw our weapons and our history and they were afraid. Maybe they were right to be afraid. Maybe we are dangerous. But today, someone called for help. They didn't know they were calling us. They probably don't even know who we are. But they called and we answered. That's what we do. That's what makes us human. We see someone in trouble and we help. Not because they're our allies. Not because there's something in it for us. But because it's the right thing to do. Today we show the galaxy what humanity really is. Today we show them that the scariest species in space is exactly who you want on your side. All ships prepare to jump. The fleet entered dark space together. The universe twisted around them. Reality folding in ways that made no sense. For 4 hours they traveled through the impossible space between spaces. Then they emerged. The dying star system appeared around them. Dead ahead was Harmony's Edge station, breaking apart under Krithian fire. The Krithian fleet surrounded it like sharks. All ships battle formation, Bora ordered. Put us between the station and those ships. Weapons free. Show them what a real warship looks like. The 12 human vessels moved into position. Compared to the Krithian fleet, they were outnumbered nearly 4-1. The Krithians probably thought they were looking at easy targets. They were very wrong. This is Admiral Bora of the Terran Defense Fleet. Bora broadcast on all frequencies. Unknown station, we received your distress call. Hold position. We'll handle this. On the Indomitable's bridge, Hyan watched the Krithian fleet react. Their ships were repositioning, trying to figure out what these newcomers were. Sir, we're receiving a transmission from the Krithian flagship, Dahyun said. He's demanding identification. Tell him to surrender, Bora said calmly. He has one chance. The response came back quickly. It wasn't words. It was weapons fire. 3 Krithian destroyers opened up on the Indomitable, plasma bolts streaking through space. The bolts hit the Indomitable's armor and scorched it. That was all. The armor held. Well, Bora said, I guess that's their answer. All ships, light them up. The human fleet opened fire and space turned into hell. Railgun rounds, each one moving at a significant fraction of the speed of light, crossed the distance in heartbeats. They hit Krithian shields and punched straight through. Metal screamed. Ships broke. The Krithians had energy shields designed to stop energy weapons. They did nothing against solid chunks of metal moving fast enough to hit like the hand of an angry god. Missiles followed, hundreds of them. Point defense systems on Krithian ships tried to shoot them down. They got some. Not enough. Warheads detonated against hulls. More ships died. They're breaking formation, Doyen reported. The destroyers are scattering. Let them run, Bora said. Focus on the dreadnoughts and cruisers. And someone get me that warlord. I want to have a word with him. The battle raged on, but it wasn't really a battle anymore. It was a lesson. The Krithians were learning what happened when you threatened the innocent and someone decided to do something about it. And humanity was teaching that lesson with extreme prejudice. Warlord Zekrin had been in hundreds of battles. He'd conquered 23 worlds for the Krithian Empire. He knew how wars worked. You showed up with overwhelming force, the enemy surrendered or died. And that was that. Simple, clean, profitable. This was not simple. His flagship shook as another railgun round tore through a section of the ship. How were these primitives hitting so hard? Their weapons weren't even energy-based. They were throwing metal. Just throwing metal very, very fast. Shields down to 40%. His weapons officer screamed. We can't stop these rounds. Then shoot them, Zekrin roared. Destroy those ships. The Krithian fleet was trying. Plasma bolts filled space, more firepower than most species could even imagine. They hit the human ships again and again. The human ships kept coming. One of the human vessels, smaller than the rest, took 3 direct hits from a Krithian cruiser. The plasma should have melted through it. Instead, it just kept moving, leaving a trail of glowing metal behind it. It turned toward the cruiser and fired. The cruiser broke in half. What are these things made of? Zekrin's navigator asked, voice high with fear. Zekrin didn't have an answer. He'd read the Coalition reports on humans. Deathworlders, dangerous, quarantined. He'd thought it was typical Coalition fear of anything stronger than a light breeze. Now he understood. The Coalition hadn't quarantined humans to protect the galaxy from them. They'd done it to protect humans from making everyone else feel inadequate. "All ships focus fire on the flagship," a calm female voice said in perfect Krithian. "Disable engines and weapons. We're taking their commander alive." Zekran felt cold fear crawl up his spine. They weren't trying to destroy his ship. They were trying to capture it. "Capture him, full power to engines," he ordered. "Get us out of here!" The flagship tried to turn. 3 human ships moved to intercept. They weren't faster than Krithian vessels, but they didn't need to be. They'd already positioned themselves perfectly. Zekran realized these humans had predicted his move before he'd made it. Something hit his ship from below. Not a railgun round. Something else. The impact rang through the hull like a bell. "Boarding pod," his security chief said. "They're boarding us. How many?" "1 pod. Maybe 20 troops at most." The security chief pulled out his plasma rifle. "I'll handle it personally," Zekran nodded. 20 troops. His ship had 300 security personnel, all Krithian warriors bred for combat. 20 humans wouldn't last 5 minutes. He was wrong about that too. Lieutenant Suna's team breached the Krithian flagship at Section 12 near engineering. The boarding pod had cut through the hull like it was made of paper. Now Suna and her 19 Marines poured through the hole, weapons ready. Krithians were waiting for them. Big ones nearly 3 meters tall with scales that could stop small arms fire. They opened up with plasma rifles. Suna's team scattered, using the corridor walls for cover. Plasma bolts superheated the air where they'd been standing a second ago. One Marine, a big guy named Tejo, got clipped on the shoulder. His armor took most of it, but he'd have a nasty burn. "Frags out," Suna called. 3 grenades bounced down the corridor. The Krithians roared and fell back, their natural instinct for self-preservation overriding training. The grenades detonated. Not with fire or shrapnel, but with sound and light. Flashbangs, Krithians had excellent hearing and good eyes. The grenades overloaded both. They stumbled, blind and deaf. Suna's team moved. They flowed down the corridor like water, firing controlled bursts. Human rifles used caseless ammunition and could fire on full automatic without overheating. The Krithians, still recovering from the flashbangs, went down. "Clear," Tejo reported. 10 hostiles down. Moving to next section. The team advanced. The Krithian ship was huge compared to human vessels, with wide corridors built for their large frames. That gave the Marines room to maneuver. Every intersection was cleared with ruthless efficiency. Flashbang, advance, eliminate threats, move on. The Krithians weren't cowards. They kept coming, trying to stop the human advance. They were bigger, stronger, and in many ways tougher than humans. But humans had evolved as persistence hunters and pack fighters. They'd spent millions of years learning how to kill things bigger and stronger than themselves. Suna's team used that evolutionary advantage. They worked together, covering each other, moving like parts of a single organism. When one Marine was pinned down, 2 others flanked. When Krithians tried to use their size advantage, humans used speed and coordination. "Suna, this is indomitable," Captain Hyan's voice came through her helmet comm. "You have Krithian reinforcements heading your way. 200 troops converging on your position." "Copy that," Suna said calmly. "Where's the warlord?" "Command deck. 3 sections above you. We'll be there in 5 minutes. There are 200 enemy combatants between you and him." "I said 5 minutes, sir." Suna cut the comm and turned to her team. "New target, command deck. Fast and loud. Let's show these scalies how humans fight." The next 5 minutes were a masterclass in small unit tactics. Suna's team didn't try to fight 200 Krithians head-on. They went around, through, and over them. They used maintenance tunnels. They cut through bulkheads. They moved through sections of the ship that the Krithians didn't think could be traversed. When they had to fight, they made it count. Grenades cleared rooms. Covering fire kept enemies pinned. And always they kept moving. The Krithians were trying to fight an enemy that wouldn't stay still long enough to hit. One Marine, a woman named Jisoo, got separated from the group. 6 Krithians cornered her in a storage bay. They probably thought they had her. They learned that one human with training and determination was still a problem. Jisoo used the storage containers as cover, leading the Krithians on a chase through the bay. She picked them off one by one, using tactics that would have made her primitive ancestors proud. By the time the rest of the team reached her, all 6 Krithians were down and Jisoo was reloading her rifle like it was just another training exercise. "Show off," Tejo muttered. "You're just jealous," Jisoo replied. Suna got them back on track. 4 minutes and 30 seconds after Hyun's warning, they reached the command deck. The entrance was sealed and heavily guarded. 20 of the biggest Krithian warriors Suna had ever seen stood between her team and the door. "Breaching charges," Suna ordered. "On the door or the guards?" Taiho asked. "Both." What followed wasn't so much a battle as an explosion of violence. The shaped charges blew the door inward. At the same time, Suna's team hit the guards with everything they had. Flashbangs, smoke grenades, rifle fire. The corridor filled with chaos. When the smoke cleared, the Krithian guards were down. Some were still alive, just unconscious. Admiral Bora's orders had been clear: minimum casualties. The Krithians were the enemy, but they weren't monsters. Just people fighting for their empire, same as human soldiers had done throughout history. The command deck was chaos. Krithian officers scrambled for weapons. Suna's team was faster. Within seconds, every Krithian on the deck was staring down a human rifle barrel. Warlord Zekrin stood in the center of it all. He was bigger than the other Krithians, covered in scars that told stories of 100 battles. He held no weapon. He knew when he was beaten. "You want me to surrender?" Zekrin asked in his own language. Human translators worked instantly. "Admiral's orders," Suna said. "You come with us, alive, unless you'd prefer otherwise." Zekrin looked at the 20 humans surrounding him. They were small compared to him. Any one of them he could probably kill in single combat. But they weren't individuals. They were a unit, and they just fought through his entire ship like it was nothing. "I surrender," he said. "Smart choice," Suna replied. She gestured to 2 Marines. "Cuff him carefully. He could still snap your neck if he gets the chance." Taiho approached with restraints designed for large species. Zekrin let himself be bound. As the Marines led him to the boarding pod, he looked at Suna. "What are you?" he asked. "The Coalition said you were dangerous, but your ship is outnumbered and you're winning. Your troops are smaller and weaker than mine, and you just took my ship." "How?" Suna smiled. "It wasn't cruel, just tired. You want to know the secret? We're from a planet that spent millions of years trying to kill us. Bad weather, dangerous animals, diseases, other humans. We survived all of it. You know what that teaches you? It teaches you that size doesn't matter. Strength doesn't matter. What matters is that you don't give up. Ever. You keep fighting until you win or you die trying. That's what makes us dangerous. Not our weapons or our ships. The fact that we just don't quit." Zekrin said nothing. There was nothing to say to that. Outside, the battle was ending. Of the 43 Krithian ships, 12 had been destroyed. Another 15 were disabled. The rest were retreating into dark space, running away as fast as their engines could take them. Not one human ship had been lost. 3 were damaged, but still operational. By human standards, that was a good day. Admiral Bora watched the fleeing Krithian vessels on her screen. She didn't order pursuit. The point had been made. "Get me the station," she said. "It's time we introduced ourselves properly." Commander Jiho stood in the landing bay of Harmony's Edge, trying not to shake. The battle was over. The Krithian fleet was gone, scattered or destroyed. His station was damaged but intact. Everyone was alive. None of it felt real. The human shuttle was docking now. Jiho could see it through the bay window. A blocky craft that looked more like a flying tank than a transport. Everything about these humans seemed built for war. Even their rescue ship had armor plating. Tillich stood beside him, mandibles clicking nervously. "Perhaps we should have more guards," the insectoid officer said. "Guards?" Jiho looked at him. "They just saved our lives. They also just destroyed a fleet 4 times their size in less than an hour. What if they decide to take the station?" Jiho didn't have an answer for that. It was a fair concern. The humans were clearly dangerous, but something in that admiral's voice had sounded honest. She'd said they would help, and they had. No demands, no conditions. Just help. The shuttle finished docking. The airlock hissed open. Jiho straightened his uniform and tried to look calm. Admiral Bora emerged first. She was tall for a human, which meant she was about Jiho's height. Her uniform was clean but showed signs of long wear. She had the look of someone who'd seen too much combat but kept going anyway. Behind her came Lieutenant Suna and 4 Marines in full armor, and a bound warlord Zekrin looking diminished and defeated. Bora stopped in front of Jiho and did something with her hand, bringing it to her forehead in a crisp gesture. "A salute," Jiho's translator informed him. "A sign of respect, Commander Jiho?" Bora asked. "I'm Admiral Bora of the Terran Defense Fleet. You're from Sol 3, Jiho said. Earth, the quarantine world. That's right. Though we prefer to call it home. Bora gestured to Zekrin. This is Warlord Zekrin, commander of the Crithian fleet. He's surrendered and is our prisoner. I thought you might want to see him. Jiho stared at the Crithian who had tried to take his station. Zekrin, who had seemed so powerful and terrifying an hour ago, now looked small, defeated. Human Marines half his size had captured him, and everyone in the bay could see the shame on his face. What will you do with him? Jiho asked. That's partially up to you, Bora said. He attacked a coalition station. That makes him your prisoner as much as ours. We can hand him over to coalition authorities, or we can take him back to Earth for trial. Your choice. The offer surprised Jiho. The humans had done all the fighting, taken all the risk. They could easily claim Zekrin for themselves. Instead, they were giving Jiho the choice. Coalition authorities, Jiho decided. He committed crimes against the coalition. We should handle it. Bora nodded and gestured to Suna. The lieutenant led Zekrin away to a holding area. Once they were gone, Bora's expression softened slightly. How's your station? Do you need medical assistance? Supplies, repair equipment? Yes to all of those. Jiho felt overwhelmed. We have casualties. Not many, but some. Hull breaches on multiple levels. Life support is stable but damaged. We'll send over medical teams and engineers. Bora looked around the bay. If you don't mind humans working on your systems. Mind? You saved our lives. We're grateful. Don't be too grateful yet, said a new voice. A man stepped forward, wearing different insignia than the Marines. Intelligence Specialist Minho. He looked younger than Bora, but his eyes were sharp. We recovered data from the Crithian ships before they retreated. Commander, the Crithians weren't just attacking your station. This was part of something bigger. Jiho felt his stomach sink. Bigger how? Mio pulled out a portable display and showed them star maps covered in red markers. The Crithian Empire has been expanding for years. They've taken 12 worlds in the last 2 years alone. All of them in the Outer Rim. All of them places the Coalition considered too remote to defend. The Coalition knows about this, Tillich said. Yes, Minho confirmed. We've been monitoring Coalition communications. Your government has been debating what to do about the Crithians for 18 months. Lots of meetings. Lots of talk. No action. Jiho wanted to argue, but he couldn't. It was true. The Coalition believed in peace and diplomacy, in talking through problems. Those were good principles. But what did you do when the other side didn't want to talk? When they just wanted to take? How many people have died while we debated? Jiho asked quietly. Millions, Minho said bluntly. The Crithians don't just conquer. They enslave. Entire species forced to work in their factories and mines. The Coalition knows. They just can't agree on how to respond that doesn't violate their principles. The words hit Jiho like a physical blow. Millions dead. Millions enslaved. While the Coalition talked, we failed them, Jiho said. No, Bora said firmly. Your leaders failed them. You sent a distress call. You asked for help. That took courage. Not everyone has that. I called for anyone, Jiho admitted. I didn't even know humans existed until 3 years ago. I certainly didn't expect you to answer. Why did you? Tillich asked. The Coalition quarantined you. Called you dangerous. Why risk your lives for us? Bora was quiet for a moment. That's a fair question, honestly. Because someone called for help. Where we come from on Earth, that matters. We have a saying, no one fights alone. It means if someone's in trouble and you can help, you help. It's that simple. It's not simple, Jiho protested. You risked your ships, your people. You had no obligation to us. Maybe that's the difference between us and the Coalition, Bora said. We don't help people because we're obligated. We do it because it's right. Over the next several hours, human teams arrived on Harmony's edge. Medical personnel treated the wounded with equipment and techniques that amazed the station's own doctors. Engineers patched hull breaches and restored damaged systems. They worked quickly and efficiently, asking for nothing in return. Jiho watched it all from the command center. News of the battle was spreading across Coalition space. His communication console was flooded with messages. Some were from Coalition officials asking what happened. Others were from outlying stations and colonies, places like his that the Coalition had essentially abandoned. Those messages all asked the same thing. Could the humans help them too? Commander, you need to see this, Tillich said. He pulled up a news feed from Coalition Central. An emergency session of the council had been called. They were debating the human intervention. Jiho watched as council members argued. Some praised the humans for their quick response. Others expressed concern about human military capabilities. A few demanded that Earth be censured for violating their quarantine. They're arguing about whether you should have saved us, Jiho said in disbelief. Captain Hyon, who'd been coordinating the repair efforts, shook his head. That's politics for you. Doesn't matter what species. There's always someone who'd rather complain than say thank you. You don't seem bothered by it. We're used to it, Hyon said. Earth spent centuries with different nations arguing about everything. We learned that actions matter more than words. We did what we thought was right. If the coalition has a problem with that, they can file a complaint. They might do more than complain, Tillix warned. The coalition has rules about military intervention. Let them come yell at us, Hyon said with a slight smile. We'll listen politely and then keep doing what we think is right. Anyway, Admiral Bora returned to the command center with Minho and Suna. They'd been reviewing the data from the Krithian ships more thoroughly. Commander, we have a situation, Bora said. The Krithian fleet that attacked you wasn't the main force. It was an advance group. There are 3 more fleets like it preparing to invade the Outer Rim. Jiho felt the floor drop out from under him. 3 more? That's hundreds of ships. At least, Minho confirmed. The Krithians think the coalition won't fight back. Based on history, they're probably right. So what do we do? That depends, Bora said. The coalition needs to decide if they're going to stand up to this or keep talking. Either way, Earth will help. We've already sent word back home. More ships are coming, but we can't protect the entire Outer Rim by ourselves. The coalition will debate this for months, Jiho said bitterly. By the time they make a decision, thousands more will die. Then maybe it's time someone pushed them to decide faster, Bora suggested. You're a coalition officer. You have standing to address the council. Tell them what happened here. Tell them what the Krithians are planning. Make them understand that talking time is over. Jiho looked at the Admiral. You want me to argue for war? I want you to argue for protecting innocent people, Bora corrected. Whether that requires war is up to the Krithians. But the coalition needs to stop being afraid of standing up to bullies. And if they refuse, then Earth will keep doing what we've been doing. Answering distress calls. Helping where we can. We're not going to stand by and watch people suffer just because it's not our problem. Tillix spoke up. The council meets in 3 days. If Commander Jiho is going to address them, he needs to leave now. Jiho made his decision. Tillix, you're in command of the station. I'm going to Coalition Central, sir. The Admiral is right. The coalition needs to hear this from someone who was here, someone who saw what happened. Jiho turned to Bora. Will you come with me? The council needs to see humans for themselves. They need to understand what you really are. Bora smiled slightly. Dangerous Deathworlders? Heroes, Jiho corrected. Unity Prime was the largest artificial structure Bora had ever seen. The Coalition capital station orbited a blue gas giant, stretching for hundreds of kilometers in every direction. Millions of beings from 40 different species lived and worked here. It was beautiful and impressive and everything Earth had hoped to join 3 years ago. The Indomitable docked at a diplomatic berth. Security was tight. Coalition guards, all carrying non-lethal weapons, watched nervously as Bora, Hyon, and Suna disembarked with Commander Jiho. The humans had left their weapons on the ship as requested. They didn't need weapons to make an impression. Stay calm, Jiho advised as they walked through the station. The council chambers can be overwhelming. 40 species all talking at once. We've been to Earth's United Assembly, Hyon said. 200 nations arguing. We'll manage. They were escorted to a waiting area outside the council chambers. Inside, Bora could hear raised voices. The debate had already started, even though they weren't supposed to begin for another hour. Apparently, news of their arrival had stirred things up. A coalition aide, a small bird-like creature, approached nervously. The council will see you now. Please remember that you are guests here. Speak respectfully. We'll be on our best behavior, Bora promised. The council chamber was massive. The floor was a circle surrounded by rising tiers where representatives from each member species sat. Hundreds of eyes turned to watch as the humans entered. Bora kept her back straight and her expression neutral. She'd faced enemy fire. She could handle politicians, Counselor Elrath, the Velnar who led the coalition, spoke first. Commander Jiho, you requested this emergency session. The Council has agreed to hear your testimony regarding the incident at Harmony's Edge. Please proceed. Jiho stepped forward. He spoke clearly, describing the Krithian attack, the desperate distress call, and the human response. He didn't exaggerate or dramatize. He just told the truth. 43 Krithian ships, 12 human ships. Battle lasted less than an hour. 0 human losses, total Krithian defeat. The chamber erupted in noise. Some counselors demanded details. Others expressed disbelief. A few looked frightened. Order, Elrath called. The council will hear from the humans. Admiral Bora, please step forward. Bora moved to the center of the floor. All those eyes watching her, judging, fearing, she understood. Humans were strange to them. Dangerous. Unknown. Counselors, thank you for hearing us, Bora began. I know our intervention at Harmony's Edge has caused concern. You quarantined Earth because you feared what we might do. Today you saw what we actually did. We answered a distress call. We protected innocents. We captured an enemy commander alive because unnecessary killing goes against everything we believe in. Yes, we're good at combat. Our planet made us that way. But being good at something doesn't mean you enjoy it. A counselor from a species Bora didn't recognize stood up. You destroyed or disabled nearly 30 warships in less than an hour. That level of violence is unprecedented in Coalition space. With respect, Counselor, that's not true, Bora replied. The Krithians have been committing violence in Coalition space for years. They've enslaved millions, destroyed entire civilizations. The only unprecedented thing about what happened at Harmony's Edge is that someone finally stopped them. Another counselor, this one looking like a floating jellyfish, spoke. But at what cost? Your weapons, your tactics, they're designed for destruction. How can we trust that you won't turn that power against us? Hyun stepped forward before Bora could answer. May I address that, Admiral? Bora nodded. Counselors, I'm Captain Hyun. I commanded one of the ships at Harmony's Edge. You want to know if you can trust us? Here's your answer. Earth has had the capability to destroy itself for over 200 years. We've had weapons that could end all life on our planet. We've had wars, conflicts, disagreements. But we're still here. Know why? Because we learned. We learned that strength without wisdom is just destruction. We learned that the strong have a responsibility to protect the weak. We learned that just because you can do something doesn't mean you should. He paused. You're afraid of what we might do. We're standing here offering help and you're debating whether to accept it. Meanwhile, the Krithians are planning 3 more invasions. How many people will die while you decide if humans are trustworthy enough to save them? The chamber was silent. Then Lieutenant Suna stepped forward, which surprised everyone, including Bora. If I may speak, Suna said quietly. I led the boarding team that captured Warlord Zekrin. My team of 20 humans went into a ship with 300 enemy soldiers. We could have killed all of them. Would have been easier, actually. But Admiral Bora's orders were clear. Minimum casualties. Take the commander alive. So that's what we did. Because we're not monsters. We're just people who are really, really good at protecting others. Counselor Elrath was quiet for a long moment. The council will need time to deliberate. No. The voice came from the back of the chamber. An elderly counselor representing a species Bora didn't recognize stood slowly. No more deliberation. No more debate. I am Counselor Varen of the Helkith people. 30 years ago, my homeworld was attacked by raiders. We sent distress calls to the coalition. Help arrived 3 weeks later. By then, a quarter of my population was dead or enslaved. The coalition apologized, said they couldn't respond faster due to protocols and procedures. Varen looked directly at Bora. Humans responded in 4 hours. They fought against overwhelming odds without hesitation. They risked their lives for strangers who had rejected them. That is not the behavior of monsters. That is the behavior of heroes. Other counselors began standing. One by one, representatives from fringe worlds and outer colonies rose to their feet. These were people whose worlds the coalition protected poorly or not at all. They understood what Varen was saying, but not everyone agreed. A counselor from one of the core worlds spoke up. This is madness. We're a peaceful alliance. If we bring humans in, if we legitimize their military, we become complicit in their violence. Better than being complicit in our own cowardice. Varen shot back. The argument exploded. Counselors shouting at each other in dozens of languages. The translators struggled to keep up. Elrath tried to restore order and failed. The coalition, which prided itself on peaceful consensus, was tearing itself apart. Bora caught Jiho's eye. The commander looked distressed. This was his government, his people showing their worst side. She gave him a small nod. It was okay. This was how change happened. Messy, loud, painful. Finally, Elrath managed to quiet the chamber. "We will vote," he announced. The question before the council: should the Galactic Coalition extend an invitation for limited membership to Earth? And should we accept human military assistance in defending our territory? All in favor? Bora watched as lights appeared on the voting board. Green for yes, red for no, yellow for abstain. The lights flickered as councilors made their choices. The final count appeared. 23 green, 15 red. 2 abstentions. The measure passed. Elrath looked tired. By majority vote, the Galactic Coalition formally recognizes Earth and invites humanity to join as provisional members. The terms will be negotiated but effective immediately. Human ships are authorized to operate in Coalition space and to respond to distress calls. Bora felt something loosen in her chest. It wasn't quite celebration, more like relief. Earth wasn't joining the Coalition the way they'd hoped 3 years ago, welcomed with open arms. They were joining as the tough ally nobody wanted to need but everyone was glad to have. She'd take it. After the vote, Bora was swarmed by representatives. Most wanted to thank her. Some wanted to know if human ships could patrol their regions. A few wanted to discuss technology exchange. One wanted to know if humans would teach their military how to fight like that. "We're not here to turn you into warriors," Bora told them. "We're here so you don't have to be. You build your peaceful society. We'll handle the things that threaten it." Over the next several days, the details were worked out. Human ships would patrol the outer rim, the regions most vulnerable to attack. Earth would share some military technology in exchange for coalition medical and scientific knowledge. A joint task force would hunt down the remaining Krithian fleets. Bora found Jiho on the observation deck, watching the gas giant below. The commander looked thoughtful. "Having second thoughts?" Bora asked. "About bringing you to the council? No, about my own government? Maybe." Jiho turned to her. "We let ourselves become so committed to peace that we forgot what peace actually requires. Sometimes you have to fight to protect it." "It's a hard lesson," Bora agreed. "Earth learned it the painful way. Lost a lot of good people learning it. Will you teach us? Not how to fight like you, but how to have strength and still be good?" Bora smiled. "That's not something you teach. It's something you practice. Every day, every decision." "But yeah, we'll help." "That's what allies do." Suna appeared with news. "Admiral, we're getting reports from the outer rim. 6 more distress calls in the last hour. Stations and colonies reporting Krithian activity." 6? Jiho asked in alarm. "Word's spreading," Bora said. "The Krithians know they just lost a major battle. They're either going to back off or escalate. Looks like they're choosing escalation." She pulled up a tactical display.